Folks, we've got a great episode lined up for you here on The Big Picture. Today we have a legend.
I kept having this decision in my mind, postponing.
Yeah.
Let me just call it, announce the retirement. That fear of not knowing what next is something that has built up over years. And mismanagement suddenly it will catch up. There was no sponsor logo, it was blacked out.
I've heard from the horse's mouth what really has been going on in rugby in Kenya.
I think it was just everything around player welfare. And when you hear the reasoning behind it, it was very sickening.
You're also reminding us to eat our vegetables on FIFA. Folks, we've got a great episode lined up for you here on The Big Picture. Today we have a legend in studio with us today, and I'm not talking about Tracy. Tracy, we know you're legendary in terms of fact checks, lakini we're talking a completely different status. One-time lead try scorer in the World Rugby Sevens circuit, Kenyan rugby player of repute, the fastest man on the field, certainly the fastest man in this studio, for sure. Mr. Collins Injera, OGW.
Yeah.
Welcome to The Big Picture. Asante sana. Thanks very much for joining us. We're going to be discussing sport, rugby specifically, but sport in general. And what a time to be able to discuss this. We've got quite a number of developments all over the shop in terms of sport. Of course, we've also got our fact checks lined up for you, Tracy. I'm sure you've got something in line with the topic today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what are we looking at?
Basically a fake post. Someone generated a fake post. Remember how Nyakirere taught us on how one can create that?
Yeah.
Someone applied what was taught and did it really well. And we're also going to be looking into a video of a man who died by suicide.
Ooh.
Yes.
Gosh, and that's related to
sport. Yes.
Okay, that one we cannot wait for. So, Kolo, what we do on this show is that we try and also educate people about misinformation and disinformation, so that you come away not just with the insights from our guests, but also insights on how to be able to navigate your way through lots of fake news that's happening. And I'm sure you've been the focus of fake news from time to time. What's the weirdest thing that you've ever heard about yourself?
My net worth.
What were you told?
I was told I think I'm worth 50 million. I think it's my daughter actually who Googled it.
Hey,
yeah.
50
and
million.
She came $50 million, and she came and asked me, Daddy, you have all this money. I looked at her and said, no, this is fake news. How? Look at us. Good light.
We have a few guys here, but I know, it's a really like, it can be funny at times, of course. Now, like if your daughter's coming and telling you, Dad, man,
I know,
you're not spreading the wealth, but it also has some very, very drastic consequences. But aside from that, I want to start with rugby. Recently retired. What's life like now?
Honestly, of course, at first when you retire, there's these mixed feelings. You have these thoughts: should I have retired? Should I have not? Because actually, for me, the decision, I think I stayed with the decision for around 2-3 years. Because I remember I was ready. I wanted to call it quits after the Olympics in Tokyo, the 2020 Olympics. Yeah. But then coming back home, I couldn't just do it. I think at that time is when the former captain Andrew had retired. I wanted to do that as well, but then I said, let me hold on. Let me go for one more World Cup. I went to the World Cup, which was held in South Africa. Yeah. The Sevens World Cup. I wanted to do it there. I was ready until now. The day came. I couldn't do it again. So I kept having this decision in my mind, postponing. Yeah. But then again, I think the beginning of this year, I just said, I just have to get it done. Let me just call it, announce the retirement and see what it is. I think it is that fear of not knowing what next, because this is something that you've done for the past 18 or so years.
True.
So before you just stop it and say, I'm okay, it's a tough decision. Yeah. I won't even lie to you. It's very tough considering it's been your livelihood. You've been depending on it. And I think like you asked, life after retirement has been good and not so good at some point. But I think good in terms of now I'm spending so much time with the kids. I'm doing the school run, which was very difficult for me to do because I used to wake up at 5, go for training and all that. Yeah. Yeah, basically I'm much around. Even I'm bonding with the kids well. They are happy that I'm around, and you can
That dad's around.
yes, and you can actually see the impact on them, their academic, their moods, how they are doing things, just because you are there,
That's nice.
because of nothing else.
You're also reminding us to eat our vegetables on TikTok.
Now that is now the part of it. I mean, you get a lot
Yeah.
of free time.
Yeah.
And as always, I've always loved comedic stuff.
Yeah.
I think if you've looked at my page ever since doing the chicken thing, Klaki Rabadaki thing, I think it's something that I've loved doing. And yeah, I think now I'm getting to post it.
Hey.
I always do it under covers, but
So
probably-
Kolo the rugby star is now Kolo the TikTok star. Should we wait for a career in TikTok?
I don't know. Pretty not sure,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think I've managed to get a bit of some income on social media.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because of such things. But yeah, I mean, there are so many. I think there are a couple of options that I need to just narrow down and focus on them.
I want to go back to your retirement. A lot of us who follow the sport were shocked. Of course, we've seen you on the circuit for a long time, and we all knew that the time was coming. I mean, Tall, your brother Humphrey Kariange, also a legend of the game, stepped away from the game, sad as it was. We all knew that the time was coming, but for those of us who watched you specifically, we felt like you still were fit enough to play at least another 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So was it family pressure? What was it that really led to you pulling the trigger and saying, okay, it's time to go?
I think, like you said, to be honest, you are saying 3 years. Probably for me, I would say 2 years. I think I had a couple of more seasons in me. But now I think the factors that really contributed to me making the decision were more of the off-field stuff. By off-field, I mean the team environment changed.
Yeah.
I think it was time. It was really deteriorating. It was getting a bit toxic. And you see, for me, there's never a single day that I woke up and doubted myself. Should I go for training or should I not go for training? But I started doing that. You see, when you start things like those, you just know there's something somewhere which is very wrong.
Something deeper.
Yes. Of course, I knew, like you said, I knew time would come and I'll have to call it. But I think the more the outside stuff continued pressuring in and caving in, which is the team environment was getting toxic, which is family stuff. Family was growing. Now all the kids are in school. You still have to think of how you're going to provide, how you're going to stick with them.
Because the social media millions are not actual millions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then again, now I just had to make a decision and decide what I need to do. And yeah, that's how it came about.
We're having this conversation in the shadow of perhaps one of the most difficult times in rugby. Kenya Sevens team has just been relegated. It's lost its core status after 20 years.
Yeah.
And it was 20, and before the 20 years, what I think people forget was just how hard won that status was for us to become a core team. For all of this time, and all of the legendary players that have supported and brought Kenya to where it was supposed to be. It was an incredibly sad time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very sad time, like you said, like being in the circuit for, I think it's even more than 20 years. Because I joined the team, I think, in 2006, 7, somewhere there. And the team was already a core team.
Yeah.
So you can imagine those guys who started it off and now seeing it being relegated last year. I think it was very painful.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a conversation with Newton the other day. I don't know if you remember Newton.
Yeah,
Newton Ongalo, Newt. I mean, he was very sad. He actually couldn't believe it. At some point, everyone was thinking about Benja saying, may his soul rest in peace, how it was a sad day. The day that we get relegated is the day actually
second
Benja,
anniversary of his death.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I think when I mentioned team environment getting toxic, I think the team was on a very upward trajectory. As you know, since our days when you're playing, the allowances were being paid.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
guys here wouldn't believe, but anyway.
It came getting upwards and upwards till at a time, like I told you, I think around 2013 there, we were now turning into a bit of professional environment where a player you could just wake up and play rugby and go back home and still earn a very good living and a comfortable living. And it reached 2016, things were still okay, and I think that was the time we had reached peaked.
Yeah.
We had peaked, the team already peaked, and it was our peak. I mean, if you look at the development from 2013, 2014, 2015, having Paul True coming as a coach. Now 2016, I think, is when now, by the then coach Benja, who were starting to reap the effects of all those years. But then again, I don't know what happened. I don't want to point fingers, but now things just started dropping.
Yeah.
Now our contracts suddenly were being slashed. Every year you renew a contract, the amount depreciates, the allowances are being slashed. I think it was just everything around player welfare. And when you hear the reasoning behind it, it was very sickening.
Yeah.
If you hear
what were the reasons?
Let me just give one, and I won't be afraid to say, because you know me, I always speak out. I think I'll just give you one reason, which personally I found it very bad, because one of the directors at that time say that there is no way a player can be paid this kind of money, and he just left high school last year or 2 years ago.
And he's wearing national colors representing the country.
So, and I remember that time we were in a bit of tussle. I think most of the senior guys were really fighting for it, and we were asking them, but he has earned it. Then they came back with the reason that he doesn't know how to spend. Then you tell them, provide these financial advisors. Why don't you provide such kind of support to help them?
Every reason in the book
then they say, no, we can't pay these guys this kind of money. They'll just go to the 1824s and they wear and spoil this kind and spoil everything. But we asked them, why don't you provide the financial support? And they couldn't. That's when we had this tussle. And remember, there's a time. If you remember, there's a time we were kicked out.
Yeah.
We kept having these meetings, thinking that we are solving something. But at the end of the day, they go back to the junior guys and corrupt them, telling them that most of the senior guys don't want you now to be paid this kind of money. And it's unfortunate how they managed to convince them. So some of the junior guys, the season where we were just about to be relegated. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Yes, that season. And we managed to survive. But then again, now the junior guys got to understand what was happening. And now those junior guys are now the senior guys in this team that has been relegated.
Yeah.
So it's a pile up, it's an effect, it's a chain that started long ago. It's not something that started now.
Yeah.
And for me, if you ask me, yes, it's very sad, but then again, I also think it's like a blessing because now we have a chance now to get it right from the bottom.
That's actually what your tweet was. Very sad day, let's focus on structures.
Yeah.
And a lot of the same sentiment coming from senior players. I saw Dennis Mwanja, of course, one of the people who helped build Kenya into what it was. People might not remember, but he was an incredible player. Lucas Otieno, so many players who came before Kolo and who came before the players who are playing today are completely gutted, but all focused on the same thing: structuring rugby, structuring sport, so that the generations after you can reap from it. And what to you is the one main stumbling block? Because this isn't just in rugby. You can see it in football, you can see it in volleyball, you can see it in swimming, even individual sports like that. What to you is like one of the major stumbling blocks to getting people just over that hurdle into the league of, even if not professional sport, at least well-managed sport in this country?
I think personally, it has always been one thing, and that's the one thing that I've always fought for is player welfare. You don't take care of the players, you don't have a team. You don't take care of the player, there's no office. I don't know how we need to drill that into the people managing sports. Without the players, even you managing, you'll have no one to manage.
Yeah.
So I think for me that has always been key, because we keep mistreating players, mistreating athletes, thinking that by doing that you're making them think they'll work harder. And it's not that way. I mean, if your job in the part of the administration is to look for sponsorship or to do a bit of marketing, you do that and let the other guys focus on taking care of the players. But the moment you start interfering with player welfare, because I think as players, we do not ask for much.
Yeah.
We just want to know that we can earn a living. If we have a contract, our salaries are coming in on time, or our bonuses are being taken care of. just such small thing that you won't have to think of other things when you're out there.
I want to ask a question around player welfare.
Yeah.
What to you was the worst incident of mistreatment of a player or players that you can remember that really sticks or was burnt in your memory?
I think there are many. To be honest, there are many. Yeah, but
maybe just pick one.
Yeah, I think to pick one was the one. I don't know if you remember the one that the team blacked out the logo,
the sponsorship
logo.
Yeah.
And I think I found that it was very bad, I think, from both sides. I think number one, when we were here in Nairobi, the team, Magical Kenya team, approached us and they said, we are going to sponsor you guys for these 2 last legs, which was the London and the Paris Sevens.
Yeah.
Yes, the Paris Sevens. And they said for each player, they're going to get, I think, 100,000. And I remember that meeting with the part of the directors were at that time and the office, I think the guys who were managing the office. And I remember the lady said, I think it was then the CEO, who said, you will give us your accounts, we'll put the money there directly. And now everybody gave up their accounts. Nobody from the union had any issues. But I think after we had left, I don't know how they managed and go to the Magical Kenya team and convince them that there's no need for you sending directly. You just put all the money in our account. We know the accounts, we will distribute the money.
Wow.
Yeah. So we go to London, because I remember they promised we'll get the money even before we travel. We didn't get the money, but we still go to London. We went to London as during that, because we go a week earlier to get there like on a Sunday. So we have the whole week acclimatized and play on the next weekend. So Monday we reach London, because they told us, by the time we reach London, the money will be in.
Yeah.
We get to London, nothing happened. I think 2 days later, the team manager then, I think probably did not handle the situation right, because in terms of communication, he should have just communicated what was happening, because he knew what was happening. We didn't know what was happening, because we kept asking, so these guys have not sent the money. Say, they haven't. We've even emailed them. They have not sent the money.
Yeah.
The sad part that they don't understand is some of these players, or some of us, have contacts with those people. So when we contact them, they say, we sent the money a long time ago. You haven't received.
Wow.
That's when we were told that the money
was sent
the
to the
union
union.
requested them to send the money to their accounts. And you see, no one came and told us. You see, you just tell us, they sent the money to our accounts, but something happened.
Yeah.
That way, you have communicated.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to mean you're giving us the money. At least we know the money you'll give us. But now they kept lying and saying, the money has not been sent. And I remember we played London Sevens without any issues.
Yeah.
Played, then we asked the team manager, so what is happening with this money? Those guys haven't sent yet. And we were wearing the Magical Kenya.
Yeah.
So we kept understanding that, the understanding that players had was, these guys are just using us to promote the Magical Kenya band. But they say they'll do this, but they're not doing it. So we get to Paris, we trained the whole week. And I won't forget this meeting we had, I think, 2 days before the tournament. It was on a Wednesday. We had a meeting with the team manager, the whole team and we asked, same thing. So you told us before we get to Paris, and you see, even before we left London, they told us, before even the train touched down in Paris, tutakuwa mmepata pesa kwa accounts. Nothing happened. So now on Wednesday, we get to the meeting, and I remember players asked, so what is happening? Team manager said, these guys haven't sent. And I remember we raised that question and told them, but you've been told they sent the money to the union.
Yeah.
Team manager refused. Akasema, hapana, money has not been sent. Whoever is telling you this thing is lying to you guys. Then the player said, okay, you go back and tell this, I won't mention the players.
Yeah.
You go back and tell these guys that this weekend we are not wearing the Magical Kenya. We will black it out. And it was said even way before. I think by then, people thought that the players were bluffing. But it had reached a point, and like I told you, it was something that was developing. The mistrust between the team and the guys managing was there. So there was no way the players would believe that again.
Yeah.
We go into our first game, and it's funny how no one noticed the first game we had blacked out. I think it's because we got hammered by New Zealand.
Yeah.
So nobody
Nobody
noticed that we had blacked out the logo.
Yeah.
We go into our second game. We played Fiji. By that time, Fiji, I think, was on a 30-game winning streak or something.
Yeah.
We beat Fiji. And fortunately or unfortunately, I got dragged out of the game and to go for an interview with CNN.
Yeah.
So I was doing the interview with CNN, but now there was no sponsor logo. It was blacked out. I think that's when they noticed this was a time for us to be out there.
Yeah.
Why are we not there?
Yeah.
Suddenly calls started coming in. You could look at the mood in the changing room, how the guys were reacting. Suddenly, I think by that time, Chris Diaz was part of Magical Kenya. He called me as well and asked directly and asked me, Kolo, so what is this? And I told him,
you guys have not paid, and you haven't honored.
And he couldn't believe it. Then suddenly, now things deteriorated, and then I think we were threatened. Players were threatened that time. I told me, if you don't do it, you'll do this. And you know that time players will come Africa Mwisho. Yeah, guys, we played that whole tournament, blacked out the logo. Kaende. So that time we finished. That's when we realized, oh, kumbe, the problem wasn't the sponsor.
It was
the union. Now they come back and tell us, and the money now came in, there was, I think, overdraft. Sijui ilikula pesa, so we couldn't, we were waiting for which money to come from where.
Yeah.
And you see, things like those would have been avoided a long time ago.
If they just communicate.
Just communicate. Yeah. And I think that was I think that was the worst that had happened to me. I'll always remember that.
That's incredible. I remember a player called Eddie. He used to play for Harlequins. He was a flanker. Yeah. And he was playing in a tournament for Kenya, and he got injured, and his eye was really badly injured. I remember that being the first sort of like wake up call to the fact that there's a very thin veil that exists between a player doing his job and a player's career ending. Look at Mitch Ochola's younger brother as well. Yeah, and the kind of things that.
And you see, it's not only them, because it has happened even up to now.
Yeah.
There is medical. You think you have you play thinking that you have a medical insurance cover.
Yeah.
But the day you get injured, that's when you realize, oh, we don't have a medical cover. You go
to the hospital around plastic.
And you have a card.
Wow.
You have a card. You go to the hospital, you give your card, they tell you, this one. You don't even recognize it. So you wonder, how are they even getting the cards as a medical cover? So there are so many things that were happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I think even there are some times, I think it's just God. We've played a whole season without any major injury. And probably they'd say, that's one of them. And I remember there was a time we used to, when we were getting salaries, you see things like tax not being remitted. You go to your tax, you wonder, but I've been deducted.
Yeah.
Why is this thing not showing up in my account? So you see, things like those were really happening behind the scenes, and probably most of the players didn't know.
Yeah.
But now the guys when we started now uncovering such things, it became a big issue. Now that's when things just started going down and down and down. Yeah.
It's incredible that you would have to retire for a lot of these things. I mean, in rugby circles, a lot of these things are well known, well understood. But it's incredible that a player of your stature, Collins has been inducted into the Melrose Sevens Hall of Fame. You are in Fiji also being inducted to the Hall of Fame. I mean, you're very well respected on the circuit as an individual player, but also as a team member in Kenya. It's really surprising that these kinds of things would come out from one of the most decorated players in Kenya about the status of Kenya rugby, that the rot really was underneath all of the shimmer and all of the shine that people have come to believe rugby was about all of these years. It's really an incredible thing, and perhaps now that we are no longer part of that circuit, a real time for reflection.
Exactly, and that's why I was saying I think we have an opportunity now to start things from scratch and build a proper system, a proper managed system. I think a player pool that we can now rely on, and not just picking players because he's aligned to one director or a player is aligned to a certain coach. I think we have an opportunity to be able to get the systems right.
Yeah.
and just get a proper team and go to the Challenger Series next year and see if we can manage to get back to the World Series. Because I believe this is a very big opportunity lost for the generations to come. I mean, if we don't manage to get back, then that's it.
Yeah.
There'd be no more young guys growing up wanting to play sevens. Because as you know, sevens has always been that kind of...
That's true.
Players want to play.
Yeah.
And it's sad because some of the players have been robbed of this. Some of them just came in this season thinking that they have these dreams, that they want to perform well. And now all of that is just gone like that. Yeah. And it's saddening because it is something that has built up over years and over years. And mismanagement suddenly it will catch up.
You know, Kolo, I mean, you're absolutely right, and we can talk, you know, until the cows come home about the issues in rugby and in sport. But I want to turn focus to you a little bit and talk about the journey, right? So, in as much as all of this was going on, you still were able to really summit the mountain of rugby greatness to the extent that I was just looking at the World Seven circuit and they had put you in a dream team of real legends, Waisale Serevi, Dan Norton, Tim Mickelson from
New Zealand.
Yeah, from New Zealand, and that kind of profile really starts somewhere.
Yeah.
What are the things that you did, very deliberately, going through your entire career, that a sports person in any sport should now start thinking about inculcating as they start?
I think when you mention deliberately, I think there's one thing that I've always done consistently, which was every time I step onto the field or I go for training, I want to get better. Every time I want to get better. If it's the passing, I want to make sure my left pass is perfect, is spot on. I have to make sure my right pass is spot on. If it's tackling, there are those things that I'll break down those smaller goals that I keep focusing on them because I know the bigger goal is not even, I know it's there, but it's not the one I'm focusing on. Yeah. It's these small goals that I need to, the boxes that I need to tick for me to be able to get to the bigger goal. And for me, it is always that I have to get better. And how do I have to get better? I have to get better by making sure my discipline is on point, making sure I have to work hard for this, making sure I go for what I need. And I think that has been consistent throughout my career, even when I wouldn't say old, even when I was this experienced. I think I kept doing it. And up to now, that's what I keep doing. Yeah. And one thing that I promised myself probably even when I was starting is I'll never change. I'll always be me. I'll always stick to me. If you don't like it, then well and good. We'll find a way of how we can handle both of us. But I'll always be me. I'll always be this outspoken guy. I'll always be this guy who wants to do things on the field. I'll always be this guy who wants to try things. And by the end of the day, it's just always wanting to be better.
I want to shift to something that a lot of people or players might be interested to know. You've played with a lot of rugby legends in this country. I could rattle them off one by one. And I want to exclude your brother from this. Who was your favorite teammate in Kenya, at Kenya? Because club, I know, I'm sure you might have a few.
Yeah. But club, I have very many.
Who was your favorite teammate? Outside of Humphrey, because I'm assuming that he was among the top.
When I started off, because like you said, I've played with so many rugby players. Yeah. I think if you allow me to break them down, I think when I started off, at that time I think it was Biko Adema, because the simple fact that we joined together, these rookies who joined together, we started together in the 15s, then we moved together to the 7s, and we stayed like that for long. We played at 10, I played at the wing. We usually used to talk about what tricks you're going to do in the game, what we need to do, how he'll kick. I think we just probably share ideas of how we can play. And I think at that time, we really grew together until the time he, I would say, retired. Yeah. But then after that now, when I was already a senior guy, if I am to pick a player, was I think Billy Odhiambo. For the simple reason that he's been my roommate for the longest time in the team. I mean, when he joined, I think back in 2012, he's been my roommate till I think 2018, somewhere there. Every time we go on tour, he's always my roommate. And I've seen him grow. I've seen him as a young guy, and the good thing about him, he was very confident. He used to ask questions. I remember the ever first time I was roomed together with him, I was wondering what will we talk about, me and him?
Yeah.
Because he was a rookie, he was just from Strathmore. He was a very quiet lad, so I knew this was going to be a struggle. But funny enough, we get into the room, he's the one who starts the conversation. We start talking about the game, starts talking about family, he starts talking about his life, and somehow we just bonded and everything now came together.
Yeah.
Then, of course, there are players like William Barker, who has always been, when he joined, we've always been together. We had a very tight bond with him when we were playing.
Yeah.
The time he became the dream team of the World Series during Mike Friday's time. He was the center, I was the wing, and we had a very good connection while playing together. So I would say I think those are the kind of players that, of course, there are many. There are many that I've played with, from Kina Deno, Kina Alan, I mean, Lavin Asego, of course, from club as well. I don't know now where he lies, club or country. But I think just to mention, I think I'd say Biko, because of the simple fact that we started together and grew up as a team. Billy, because I always take him as my kid.
Like a younger brother.
Yeah, a younger brother. He came onto the team and he really went, and now he's this big guy in the circuit. Of course, Willie, because of the connection we had, Willie was playing at center and was playing at wing. Yeah.
Okay. The converse of that question is, who was the guy on the field who, talented as they might have been, you just couldn't stand?
In terms of what?
It might be personality, it might be he's a ball hogger, it might be that your style and his just didn't gel, but somehow...
No, I can't say I couldn't stand, but I think I don't think I can point a finger to a player that I couldn't stand. Like I told you, I'm a guy who loved to interact with everyone. From the forwards to the back line. I think how that connection came, because I was never the player who only focused on my position. I really wanted to see other people thriving as well in their position. Like I told you, I'm me. I'll be everywhere. I'll be the team. I'll be at the wing. If I see forwards doing their scrum, I'll be there, trying to look, trying to understand. If I have a couple of tips, I add on to that. So I don't think there's a player I can point that I did not understand. Of course, we had players that, like you said, ball hogging. You tell them, hey, you need to pass this ball, but it's not that I don't like him or I don't stand him. It's just because we really want to make sure we are playing well as a team.
Okay. Very diplomatic. There's something. I have two more questions, and it's more about legacy, right? So, one, in terms of what you would advise someone who's stepping onto the rugby field today, either as a person in primary school who's looked up to you in your career, or someone who's playing top flight rugby in Kenya. What is that lesson that Collins Injera, with all of the experience that you've been able to gather, would turn back and say, this is really what you need to know as you go through your career?
I think I've always been real with the guys who always ask me what they need to know. And number one, I always tell them, for starters, rugby is not a professional sport in Kenya yet. It can give you income, I agree, it can give you a comfortable life, but it's not a professional sport. Probably if you go out there, yes, it can be a professional sport, but in Kenya, we are not a professional sport. So what I tell them is, you can focus on it, you can have your goals and you can have your dreams, but at the same time, try and also think of your plan B.
Your life.
Or your life, how it handled, because sports can have a very long career and also a very short career. You can get injured the next day, and you had focused everything on it. But because it's not a professional sport, that means you don't have a contract, maybe a 2-year, 3-year contract that will cushion you as you think of what you need to do during your injury period. So I always tell them, at least think about your life and probably what you would want to do. I know some of them come and tell me, but this is what I want to do. But at the same time, you have to face reality. You see, I can't say I want to be a Hollywood star, and I haven't even made it to our local
Riverwood.
So it's kind of those things that I'm always real with them. But then again, I tell them, this sport can also change your life. You don't have even to play here. You can be a good player. You need just one. It's just one exposure out there, and you're out. And you've gone there, play in France, whatever it is. At the same time, I tell them, this sport can change your life. So it can change your life. It can bring you good things. It can open your doors. It can help in networking. I mean, you'll meet so many guys in rugby that you wouldn't even believe you'd meet them. The CEOs, the who, just because of sports. Because sports is one of those professions that it cuts across.
Yeah, and it
connects
everybody.
people. It doesn't matter you are a CEO, you are where. Once you're coming into sport, everybody talks the same. And there's one probably quote I always tell them. The opportunities will always be there, because I see many of them saying, that was my one opportunity. Probably play one season and say, kama sikutoboa hii, I don't think I'll ever. Because opportunities will always be there.
Yeah.
So I think it's up to you to decide what you're doing when that opportunity comes. And when it's gone, let it go.
Yeah.
Because another one will always come. So there's a quote I always tell them, it's never about the opportunity of a lifetime. It's about the lifetime of that opportunity.
Interesting. That's a really good quote. That's a very good. I'm going to steal that one. I'm going to steal that one. My final question to you is about the legacy of rugby, broadly speaking, and you touched on it in that last answer. There was this expectation, I think perhaps maybe even unfairly, that you, Humphrey, a number of other players would leave Kenya and really go and make it out there.
Yeah.
What to you is more important, right? Being able to play comfortably at home, or the status that, you have your Neymars, you have your Messis, etc. You have, in Kenya, your Victor Wanyamas, and all of the players who've made it outside of Kenya, building the profile of the sport out there. Which to you matters more?
I think for every sportsman who plays the sport, you want to play the sport to the top.
To the highest level.
To the highest level. And I think, like I said, in rugby, of course, you would want to be a professional rugby player. And like I said, Kenya is not professional. And for you to be able to do that outside there, you need those opportunities to go out there. For me, you mentioned that probably people would have thought that I would have gone pro. I think I went for a couple of weeks in Stormers, but then came back. And I only came back because there was some issue. That time I was very skinny, very small. I had gone down South Africa. At that time, I think South African rugby was all about the big guys. There's no way you'd have made the team when you're a small guy.
Yeah.
And I remember when I came back to play the 5-7s, I was sent an email and told, now we want you to come back, but then you won't be playing any games. We just need you to train for a period of like around 6 months. Then when you're done, we'll look at you if there's improvement, and then we'll decide. It's not even when you're done, we'll now pick you.
Yeah.
And that's when I had to make the tough choice of, do I do that when I want to chase my professional career, or do I just come back home and go to my uni and do my stuff? And that's when I decided. I remember I had a very long conversation with my father, Humphrey as well, with so many people. And I decided, let me just stay here. I'll at least at the end of that 6 or whatever months, I'll be able to get my degree, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then after that, I can still continue chasing my dream. Because at the end of the day, if that was your path, that is your path. It doesn't matter what you do. Even if it's delayed, that is still your path. Yeah. So for me, I think I came back, did my degree, I finished my degree and continued playing sevens. I wouldn't say it was that I wanted, but then again, like, you see what I talk about opportunities. That was an opportunity for me to play pro. Yeah. But then again, as an athlete, you want to play to the pinnacle of sports. Yeah. And that's when the Olympics came. So I have been to the Olympics. Yeah. I'm an Olympian, and I think nobody can take that away from you. True. And it's 2-time Olympian. So I think I've played to the pinnacle of all sports. And you see, Olympics, it's every sport. It's not just rugby. Yeah. So like I said, that one went. I got another one, and I managed to do it. Yeah.
The lifetime of that opportunity was perhaps shorter than people might have believed. Yeah. Collins Injera, thank you very much. I mean, It's been a very, very interesting interview, and I'm sure everybody in the studio will have taken a lot away from it. I want to switch over to Tracy, who's been listening intently. Tracy, what are the fact checks that we've got today around sport? I don't know if you have any around rugby. It would have been cool, but it's okay. Yeah.
Unfortunately, people don't lie that often about rugby.
Sure.
About the players, yes, but not about the sport.
Yeah.
So today, I will start on a rather sad note. So this tweet was uploaded on 27th April. And the caption reads, "It's of a man who died by suicide."
Yeah.
So it says, "Some of my Arsenal fans committed suicide last night, immediately after they were beaten 4-1. Next is the Riddle Man, then me."
Hold on, I know who published that tweet. That was Mike Sonko, right?
Yes.
If there was a medal for fake news, but anyway,
Yes.
carry on.
So the video
Yeah.
is legitimate. This man indeed committed suicide. So we generated the keyframes from the video, then reverse image searched the videos. Then also a couple of things you will notice with the video.
Yeah.
Indeed, Arsenal did lose
Yeah.
4-1 to Man City the night before he posted this.
Yeah.
So it has the NTV, but it's the old logo. It's not the current one. So after reverse searching, it led us back to 2009. Yeah, so it's an old video.
Yeah.
So the man's name was Suleiman. After Arsenal crashed out of the Champions League, and they lost to Manchester United, not
Man
Manchester City.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, and then this one is also another tweet, the one I was talking about. Let me just lead you back there. So someone under the username Kijana ya Tuoli came up with this digital card.
Yeah.
Let me just hope you can see it.
Yeah.
So he alleges that this was a tweet
Yes.
by Kylian Mbappe. Wow, one of my great fans at Kijana ya Tuoli. I would like to meet with you and share some moments. You can also have my shirt after the next game. See you soon, G.
Yeah.
So this would catch someone's attention, because Mbappe doesn't tweet often. And when he tweets acknowledging one of his Kenyan fans, that's a big thing. In the comment section, you can even see people congratulating him.
Yeah.
But Mbappe has only sent out 4 tweets this year, and none of them mentioned Kijana ya Tuoli. But what he has here, this is indeed Kylian Mbappe's profile on Twitter. That's his username, the verified checkmark. But it's
a
not.
media card. It's generated.
Yes, generated.
Speaking of Kylian Mbappe, I really like the cover of your...
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Thanks a lot, Tracy. Much appreciated. Kolo, we have one last thing to do before we go on this show. We have a tradition. Mr. Don't worry, it's not a bad one.
It's not the rugby ones.
No, those rugby ones you can't even do on camera. We have a tradition here, and Lewis has been watching you intently as you've been speaking about lifetimes of opportunities. And amekuchora kiasi.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so this is our gift to you. As thanks for you coming to the big picture.
My God.
Yes. Ni caricature.
This is nice.
Yeah. Naweza onesha cameras. Yeah. Collins Injera. Yeah.
Kamera zione ziko wapi? Wezi hapa.
Collins, thank you very much
Louis,
for
man,
coming.
thank you very much.
Yeah, at the end of the
nice
season,
gesture.
we're going to send you a copy of this for you to keep, and it's really just to say thank you for being on the big picture. We really appreciate the time and the insights and the stories as well. And it's really, for me personally, being a rugby fan as well, it's been very interesting to have heard from the horse's mouth what really has been going on in rugby in Kenya.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I
No
appreciate
worries,
it.
man.
Thank you.
All right, that's the end of this episode, guys. As usual, you can follow us on @Africa Uncensored on Twitter, as well as we're also on LinkedIn. We haven't yet got to publishing those very philosophical posts yet on LinkedIn, but we'll get there. the work that we do here is important. You could also become a patron on our Patreon account. Follow us, give us your money, and allow for us to be able to do really important investigative work, as well as bring great guests like Collins Injera onto the set here for the big picture. My name is John-Allan Namu. Thank you very much for staying with us throughout this episode. Tracy and the team and everybody here. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.